All right, today our viewer question is, what is the best diet for people with gallstones?
Oh my, gallstones are rock hard crystals of cholesterol that precipitate out in the bile in your gallbladder, which is this muscular bag that hangs underneath the surface of your liver. And the purpose of the gallbladder is that it collects bile, which is secreted by the liver, this yellow liquid. And when you eat fats, you need to make the fat soluble in water so you can absorb it into your bloodstream. And that's what bile does. And when you eat something, an avocado or some olives or nuts that has fat in it, the body senses it. The gallbladder's muscular wall squeezes, and a squirt of bile goes down the bile duct into the intestine, mixes with the fat in your food, lets you absorb the fat into the bloodstream, and the bile is reabsorbed, and it goes around and around from the liver to the intestine, back to the liver, back to the intestine. It's a wonderful mechanism, and it's what lets us absorb fats in our diet, which are absolutely essential. But how do you make fats dissolve in water? You use a detergent. That's what bile is. And so it's a beautiful mechanism, and you should get all the way through your 120-year life without ever hearing from or thinking about your gallbladder. But sometimes the gallbladder lets us know it's not happy. If the person especially has too much cholesterol in their bloodstream, they have either a liver that puts out a huge amount of cholesterol, but the most common reason is that they're eating the cholesterol of other animals. They're eating cows and pigs and chickens, and this keeps a high level of cholesterol in their blood. And as the cholesterol is put into the bile can only hold so much cholesterol in solution, and the cholesterol will precipitate out like rock candy crystals and form these concretions in the bile called gallstones. And if you want a more complete explanation of this, I invite you to go to my website, drklaper.com, and see the video I have there called Sense and Nonsense in Nutrition, where I talk about gallbladder flushes and what a scam that can be. I'm not going to get into that, but if you have questions about gallbladder flushes, go see Sense and Nonsense in Nutrition on my drklaper.com website. That said, the question is, what's the best diet for gallstones? Well, as I said, stop eating animals. Stop, let your cholesterol level come down, which is really important, so you don't form any more of them, not to mention your arteries, etc. But also, if you stop eating the meats and dairy products, there's going to be less fat in your blood. Why is that important? Because the gallbladder squeezes in response to fat in your diet. And if you're eating butter and cheese and ice cream and hot dogs and burgers and mayonnaise and egg yolks, all this makes the gallbladder squeeze. Well, if you got a bunch of stones in there, it hurts, especially if one of the gallstones gets squirted up into the common bile duct and obstructs the duct. And now the gallbladder squeezing on an obstructed duct, there's a stone in there, and that will double you over and bring you to the emergency room begging for a shot of morphine, and usually put you on an operating table for the surgeon to take out your gallbladder. You really want to avoid that. So a big lesson is a high-fat diet is not a healthy diet for many reasons, arteries included, cancer risk included, but also gallstone risk included. So that's really an issue. So a low-fat plant-based diet is the anti-gallstone formation diet. You really, if you're eating rice and beans and greens and fruits and vegetables, you should never form gallstones. Now, people who lose a lot of weight quickly, if you're one of these people who, and bless you, you've jumped on a whole food plant-based diet and you've lost 60, 80 pounds, and you turn from one of those, massive 280-pound person to a 160-pound guy or woman. Wow, a lot of fat tissues melted off. And sometimes these folks will form gallstones. So much stored cholesterol from their fat tissues come into circulation, wound up in their bile and precipitated out. that the dramatic weight loss sometimes has a gallstone as a consequence. So what can be done? Same thing. The fats in the diet make the gallbladder squeeze. If the gallbladder never squeezes on sharp, uncomfortable stones, you can live to be 120 with stones in your gallbladder. They don't really cause any harm. So avoid precipitating the attack by eating a whole food, low-fat, plant-based diet. There are medicines that can dissolve gallstones. They're rarely used. Now, if you have your gallbladder out, all the more reason to eat a low-fat diet. There are people who function perfectly well without a gallbladder. The bile just keeps circulating around and around, but all the more reason not to dump a whole bunch of fats, including vegetable oils, down your intestine after you have your gallbladder out. So those are basically the dietary guidelines for gallstones. Avoid the painful attack and eat a whole food plant-based diet, low in fat, and hopefully you'll never see the sharp end of a scalpel blade. And if you do, it's not the worst thing in the world, but that's what I'd recommend for a dietary approach. Hi, everyone. Dr. Michael Klaper here, announcing our new format for our Q&A with Dr. K. Annie Hagen will be asking me one question that's been sent in by our viewers. So if you want to see if your question is getting answered, do join us for our Q&A with Dr. K right here. Hope to see you then.